Inna is the proof that useful augmented reality does not have to start with some giant futuristic vision.
My favorite is tiny lenses, which solve some very small problems. I have a dog vision lens that just switch human vision to the dog vision. It's super simple lens, but I built it to when I realized that the dogs see the world in different colors and I just want to choose the right toy for my dog.
Today we will look at how to design and build useful lenses on spectacles and how AR can make our life easier today. I'm here with Inna Horobchuk, an architect and interior designer turned creative technologist, someone bringing a very different perspective into AR by thinking less like a game developer and more like a spatial designer. And that different perspective leads to a very different idea of what AR glasses should actually be for.
I'm fully cheering for utilities. I just love doing it. That's what I'm thinking about when I'm working and finding any kind of use cases.
But what can you really build on spectacles today?
I think now with the spectacles, you can build fully spatial AR experience that live in real world. You can use a lot of inputs. You can build experience with hand tracking. You can build experiences with AI, connected with AI. You can create with AR in a lens.
What are the design decisions to create AI-driven lenses?
This might be the most interesting part when you're trying to find what kind of input you want to use, how you want to trigger to make it like flawless or natural for human.
How to turn a challenge into a creativity boost.
Field of view, it may be this thing that a little bit challenging for designers, but it also, I would say, enhances the creativity to do it right.
And we also talk about what Lens Studio gets right, especially for creators who do not come from a hardcore engineering background.
Actually, I really love Lens Studio because I can build a lot of cool stuff. I can build AR, very simple, very easy. I do not have any tech background, but I can build AR and I can test it immediately. I can test it in the specs.
And yes, we also tackle the question a lot of creators and studios are quietly asking right now. Is building for spectacle a smart bet, or are you investing into a closed ecosystem too early?
I think it's a risk and not the risk. Because it's a new field. To be afraid that something doesn't work out, it will just stop you from doing anything.
But before we get into it, I wanted to remind you that if you don't have the time to watch the full interview and want to learn from other founders and creatives at the intersection between XR and AI, you should definitely check out the XR AI Spotlight newsletter. By subscribing, you will get weekly interviews like this directly in your inbox and access to a list of tools and apps that allow you to experience Gaussian splatting in VR, on Quest, and Vision Pro. Just check the first link in the show description.
And now it's time to roll the title and welcome Inna under the spotlight. Inna, it is a real pleasure to have you here.
My pleasure being here. Thank you.
So I have seen over the past months, like several of the lenses that you have built, you have designed, and I was really interested in the different approach and wide variety of use cases that you also experimented with. So I would like to start asking, what can you build right now on spectacles?
Well, that's a nice question. And I think now with the spectacles, you can build fully spatial AR experience that live in real world. You can use a lot of inputs. You can build experience with hand tracking. You can build experiences with AI, connected with AI. You can create with AR in a lens, what is super cool. You can build utility experiences, of course, and maybe one of the coolest thing also, you can have a connected experiences. So few people wearing spectacles can communicate, can play, can create, and they can see AR from the different angles. And also you can see the same AR using your phone, just like Spectacles app. And in the, I think it's the spectator mode, and you can see how the people with the spectacles interact and through the different devices seeing the same AR. So that's really cool thing that you can build.
So maybe also out of curiosity, right? What is your background? Would you define yourself as a developer, a designer, someone in between? Had you had also previous experiences building immersive experiences on other platforms, just to get, let's say, the ground level?
I don't know. I still don't know. I'm still searching. So maybe, yeah, I cannot identify like clearly what I'm doing. Just I came from the architectural background and interior design. So now I'm like trying to use my approaches, building some spatial stuff, still building them, but in a digital layer in the real world. Before it was actual stuff, and now it's like the digital stuff. But I'm trying to merge the same approach, working with the environment, with the context. So it's kind of maybe some unique perspective. And it's also connected to the working with the 3D models, to the software, kind of a bit different software, but it's still a designing software. But yeah, I do not have any kind of gaming technology design background. So yeah.
I think that's very inspiring. And every time that it is remarkable how many spatial designer, when I mean spatial, I'm talking really like about architect, people that design real spaces, ended up being fascinated and being very successful when it comes to actually designing stuff in XR, right? We're talking about VR and as well as augmented reality. And given the variety of experiments that you have done, so both experiments, lenses that you have published, is there one you are particularly proud about?
Like one specific. That's a
I
complicated.
know it's tough.
I'll try like a little bit worry on this question, because I can be proud of this star map, yeah, because it's featured in the spectacles. I'm really proud of this lens, very complex, and it went far. But from my perspective, like my favorite is tiny, mini lenses, which solve some very small problems. For example, for the phone lens, I have a dog vision lens that just switch human vision to the dog vision. It's super simple lens, but I built it to, when I realized that the dogs see the world in different colors, and I just want to choose the right toy for my dog. And then I get to know that the dog cannot see the red ball on the green grass. So I just built the app so you can switch in the toy shop and choose the ball. It's a phone app. It's super simple lens in the Snapchat. And about the spectacles, yeah, it's wine identity lens. Let's call it Vivino veritas. And Bookworm, it's also one small problem, and it just cut some corners to get to the information straight away from the glasses without some extra inputs and without touching a phone, for example.
I think it's also interesting how sometimes the bigger experiences like the stargazing that is made of so many layers, right? And it's fascinating. You have these worlds that you can put anywhere and look at, change position and see how the position of the star will change accordingly. You can even walk and see the stars up in the sky. So there are so many opportunities. And then you brought up something that is instead incredibly useful, right? And I totally agree. I wouldn't have thought about it. And I think those are things that solves actual problem, right? And that's that is a very interesting point. Now, you mentioned two other like Vivino and Bookworm, right? Can you tell us a little bit how they work in a way and how they interface with AI? Because that is a core building block, right, of these experiences. Or maybe that's not the case, but just can you tell us a bit how they work and what's the use of them?
I'll try to simplify it a little bit. It's not really that complex lenses. They have kind of similar pipelines. In general, you just trigger the glasses to take a picture of what you're looking at. With the Bookworm, you trigger it with a special gesture, like to frame the book. That's maybe the most interesting part when you're trying to find what kind of input you want to use, how you want to trigger to make it like flawless or natural for human. Or with the wine, you're just pointing at the wine, so it triggers the taking image, AI identify, sending it to the AI identify what you're looking at. With the wine lens, it gives you in AR UI level, it gives you the straight away the information about the wine, which more simple. And with the Bookworm, it gives you the information in a specific format that we actually send it again to AI. and to asking it to act as the book author and even to catch up with, for example, book author gender and change the voice after this to make it more real, and to act as the book author and to tell about the book. So you can interact also, you can have some dialogue, and this is also idea of this solving small problems, because I like to return to these lenses. And each time I'm in the shop, it's something that you want to use again. And I was thinking, okay, maybe if I have spectacles right now, I would point on the wine. Or I was reading the book lately and I was thinking, where's my spectacles? I'm not sure that I want to finish this book. Maybe I better ask the author. So I like to return again to these experiences myself. I like to use them.
You brought up an interesting thing that is like, how do you control the AI? Or in a sense, like, how do you input? And you said in Bookworm, you use these spatial gestures, right, with your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And in Vivino, instead, you use, let's say, the pointing at the label, let's say, of the wine.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
when I was testing the Bookworm app, one thing I noticed is that, for example, of course, to do these gestures, I had to put the book down because I needed two hands to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, for example, if I'm in a library, I could instead just maybe hold it with one hand and then point it like if you did with the wine. So maybe like, what was the logic? Like, how did you feel that one interaction was working better in one case over another? Have you experimented other things maybe that before getting to that solution? Can you guide us through that process?
Of course, this kind of decisions, it's like a lot of iterations and trying a different inputs. And here we tried to cooperated with my husband in this sense. We tried to find approach. First of all, AI takes some time to think about the book. And we made this kind of scanning that also a little bit cut the time of waiting. You can see it in a wine lens that there is a holder that shows like the AI thinking. But here is like a little bit more information because we have this back and forward with AI to act like an author. So it takes more time. So we visually trying to cut a little bit corner here to cut the time of AI, because otherwise the user will be bored to wait for that. About the pointing and framing. Framing is just because a lot of books can be around you in a library or in a shop. So framing actually clarify what book you are interested in. Because if you visit with the wine, we're sending the image like asking AI on which exactly wine I'm pointing it identified that there's my hand and identify the label. And here a lot of books can be around and pointing maybe won't be that clear, and pointing on the book. So framing the book was more accurate. Also, about the library, I was thinking like when I'm in a library, I'm just collecting a lot of books, searching for any free table, and then I started sitting in a car, not like standing. When you're standing, you can look in one book, but when you have a pile of books, so you go with them and scan them, and you can scan one after another. That's also like helpful. We tried the different approaches. We're thinking in future to make it maybe more complex, to create some kind of list of the favorite books, to make it more, so you can use it like your notebook or something. But for now, it's more was testing how it works and more about the author communication, how the interaction with VR, talking in VR won't feel weird, and how to make it that it's not really weird. So it's more of a testing in this direction and this gesture.
Interesting. I think you made a very good point when it's like, it's used in different settings, like the wine, maybe it's standing somewhere, while instead for the book, it's like you're sitting, and that's how you intend, or maybe you imagine people might use it, right? And then I think it's a fair point. One thing also you said is that for the wine, what happens then is that you take a picture, you take a whole picture, but then the prompt tells the labels that I'm pointing at. And then the AI is capable of recognizing what is that it should, that should read, right? That should search. Basically, that's how it works.
In a one, it's recognized like I'm just asking on what I'm pointing at. And I think there is also was I need to remember it. There is also was a point when it recognized that I'm actually touched I think the world mesh was involved, so it recognized when I actually touched the surface, like more or less when the pointing, because otherwise you can point somewhere in the space, and here was the pointing exactly where there is the wine bottle, there is a surface, and when this pointing is happening.
And that was the other question that I had, indeed. So you could point at things without physically pointing at things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was thinking that could also be a way of interacting or defining, but then indeed it is less accurate because the glasses might not see or triangulate the thing you are pointing in the same way. So what you're saying is that there is also in that case like a mesh recognition kind of element on top of the image.
Yeah, we used very similar approach. We used in a hackathon in the LA, where we were in Specs hackathon. We had a super awesome team, and we created the lens in 24 hours when the user pointing at two things. It was lens like to help you to understand, to make decisions for you, to make the life simple. So you can point into things like two chairs, and AI will tell you on which chair it will be more comfortable for you to sit. If it's, for example, a computer table, it will understand that that's an office. It will propose you more ergonomic chair. Otherwise, it will propose maybe more chair that looks better, or we even pointing on the two same sofas, and it proposes the sofa where the cushions were aligned very nicely than the one where there was. So that, and you can point on the snacks, and it will propose you healthy snacks, so on. And also it will check the information about the user wearing the glasses to select a better approach for him. For example, if you have allergy for some kind of snack, it will tell you have allergy here, so better choose this one. So we took the same approach here, and we'll try to leverage it for the more utility way when you're in the shop, and how else we can play around this idea.
That's an interesting thing. We always need to think about there are two things, because if things get three, then it gets complicated. But I can totally imagine how the use cases can then span, right? It's not enough for one thing, but to help you make decision. I think it's fair. And the other app also that you mentioned was a star map, right? Where you have this, as we were saying, like different layer, different things that you can do. And that's the moment that when I was looking at it, I really felt that was one of the cases where I really felt the limitation of the field of view of the spectacles. How do you feel about it? Like maybe specifically with Star Map, or more broadly from designing so many lenses?
Well, sometimes I know field of view, it may be this thing that a little bit challenging for designers, but it also I would say enhance the creativity to do it right, to work around more what the user actually looking at. If we'll take the sample of the star map, I used this approach for the stargazing mode. Stargazing mode, which you can switch when you're outside during the night, and you can see stars, and you really want to see how the stars aligned, to see the constellations. You're looking at some stars, and you want to know how the constellations actually connected, how the stars connected. And for this mode, we use the approach for where user looking at. It highlights these constellations. It doesn't highlight all the sky. It's only where the user looking at, because it's a night sky, and it's dark outside. It's not always hand tracking working when it's dark outside. Super simple mode, just to look around, and you can see only anything that is in your field of view where you're actually looking at. So that's how we try to leverage it. So we do not show anything that is behind the user, so on. So it's challenging, but it's possible to find the right approach.
I would argue that sometimes also when you are designing for augmented reality, maybe less is more, right? I mean, you don't want digital to overtake the physical space, and you still want to add context and value in part
of the scene, part of the environment, and not try to rebuild maybe everything in VR, because otherwise maybe you're building something for the wrong device. That's maybe I think we have amazing, let's say, VR headsets, and then maybe if you're building something fully immersive, maybe that's just not the right platform, and AR glasses, right?
Yeah, absolutely agree, because the AR, it's not VR. So the experience that we should not compare them, that there's two different fields. And AR, it's more creating some this information level for user to understand, to interact with the environment, not to hide you from the environment. Like VR, it just creates an absolutely different space and just take the user to some other experiences. And here we're trying to support the environment, to be in the context of the environment. So that's kind of different technologies. So that's a different approaches.
So the other thing that you have hinted maybe before and also right now, so to make this experience very believable, is that things should be properly aligned, right? So in a sense, like the stars as aligned as possible. Also maybe like the selection of the book, right? That needs to be aligned. You also mentioned about spectator mode, multiple people, also collaborating maybe on the same experience. And that relies on a similar concept. That is the alignment either of the digital content between people or maybe the digital content with the physical space, either those are stars or something else. What's your experience with achieving good tracking or locking of this digital content between users or in the physical space?
I know I have pretty good experiences with spectacles. I had a pretty good experience. I have a very decent compass that we use in our lens, and also good tracking, the good hand tracking. I know it depends also of experience. Sometimes you need to understand that that's a AR technology and it's have a lot of different inputs from different cameras, and you need to work around. Cannot build some super complex stuff, but I know I have pretty good experiences with
that's
testing.
a totally fair
Yes.
statement, right?
I don't even know how to answer actually.
No, I think it's a very fair point. It's just like, look, given where the technology is right now, it's more than it's enough to build what we wanted to build. Like tracking or locking was not a major concern. There were other concerns. For example, you mentioned maybe FOV. That may be a bigger one because you need to be mindful when you design for it. So maybe more broadly, what do you think are currently the limitation for building right now spectacles?
Well, there is everywhere limitations. I'll start like this. For example, I have limitations with my phone, and of course, I wish it to be bigger, to more, so I can. Sometimes it's too limited. The screen is too limited. But if it would be bigger, it will be iPad, And of course, the battery is limit. And as for any other tech, I wish I will never have to charge my phone. Yeah, and the battery is the limit always for any kind of stack, for any kind of technology. And but it feels when you're creating something, designers start working about different experiences. The technology, bit by bit, it's keep up with. It will finally it will achieve the goal which we are working toward, but it's like going next to each other. We showing how far this hardware should go by building new stuff, and to showing like how capable it should be. So yeah, the field of view will be a limitation, and the battery, like for any kind of device. But I want to notice that device have battery. It's not do not have a wire. Yeah, so it's like standalone item. So my phone takes the battery works for one day, but I wish I can charge it like my watch for 1 week. So there's always a compromise. If you want to build some super heavy lenses, it won't work that good. Yeah, so it's a compromise, and it's also a challenge for the designers to build cool and more optimized stuff.
Absolutely. And so this, I think, also comes about when we start talking about Lens Studio overall, right? What is your experience on developing on the platform?
Well, after coming from the 3D design tools and programs, like for rendering and building and animation. I really love Lens Studio because I can build a lot of cool stuff. I can build AR, very simple, very easy. And I do not have any tech background, but I can build AR and I can test it immediately. I can test it in the specs. I do not have specs. I have phone. I can just create something in a few minutes and test it on my phone. So it's very approachable for me. The Lens Studio, the main idea, it's really approachable. The other thing that now in the new Lens Studio, there is a lot of AI support. So technically you can just put the prompt and Lens Studio will build the lens for you. So you don't even need to know basic stuff. It also will create a 3D model for you. There is a lot of cool AI support. I'm not even talking about all the documentation they have online, a lot of creators having tutorials. There is a lot of help, assistance, and I really enjoy the software. Yeah.
That's nice. And I think indeed, whenever more people can start creating, I think that's absolutely positive. Now, when looking at developing for spectacles, right? Is that kind of like a risky bet for people, since at the end, what you will build on spectacles, what you build on Snap will stay on spectacles, will stay on Snap. Is that a problem that it's, at least at the moment, a closed ecosystem?
I think it's a risk and not to risk because it's a new field, and to be afraid that something doesn't work out, it will just stop you from doing anything. I mean, I'm doing that, so maybe I do not find it that risky, or maybe I'm more curious about how AR will be developed. I built with them because they're really approachable, I think, and the Lens Studio was easy for me to start with. And if you do not risk this kind, you cannot be engaged in developing AR in general, because AR, it's a new field. And there is a lot of things that you can create that no one did before. You can create new approaches, you can create new stuff. So if you do not risk, you're not the one who developing AR field. So that's my position here.
And I think it makes sense. So there is kind of like the first mover advantage in a way, right? When you say, okay, we are the first building on this new platform. So we know, and there is the incredible value of, first of all, I think, learning, let's say, how to build for this, but also the fact that what you build can also something that looks new, looks polished, and then as a consequence can also attract the attention of people to you that maybe might not be, maybe back then was fine with AR lenses, but now that let's say novelty has waned down, right? So then it's like, oh, now we can do instead lenses on spectacles, and then you are back, let's say, on top of the list, on top of the feed, if we want to say also in some way, right? So that is also like an incredible value, I think. And so for people that are maybe like hesitating, right? It's like, yeah, like what would you say is the major, are there other aspects valuable when building on spectacles from a creative, from a studio, from someone that is invested in this technology?
I would say just need to try to see how it goes, because it's very hard to judge. There is a lot of different variables can be involved. So I would say just see how it works out. And while you're doing something, maybe you can have some other ideas coming into you, or anyway, doing something is better than not to doing. So I think it's better to try to build and to know, okay, it doesn't work out, I move forward. Okay, it worked, but how can I know if I didn't try it? So maybe like that, to experiment more.
That is a totally fair point. And I think that also what people often forget in a way, to share part of their experiments. It doesn't matter if they have succeeded or failed. That's, I think, another important thing, because sharing those either as part of a portfolio, as part of a conversation or an article or whatever that might be. I think that there is incredible value. People can learn from you, and as well also give you something that you can share. And it doesn't need to be this super polished portfolio piece necessarily on your website. I think it can take different form.
Yeah, exactly. I think in this point, when we're still developing this technology, any kind of experience, even if it's not like successful experiment, not every experiment can be, it's still kind of part of research. And I cannot even say that any kind of experience built in AR is like total some final polished game. It's still a research because it's still developing. So we're still researching what inputs is working better, how the space works better. So it's part of developing this technology.
The technology, of course, is evolving, right? And there is this I was particularly fascinated by the fact that how you continuously pursue the idea of building something useful, because other people might also be thinking, hey, I'm building something fun and entertaining. Well, instead, there could be something fun and entertaining, but that has a final use case, and it doesn't need to solve a huge problem, but it can solve a small problem in that specific context. So how do you see this evolving, in a sense, like what kind of lenses, experiences, apps, or functionality do you see coming to this maybe in 2026, maybe in 2027? Because realistically, we might not get the same level of tracking or 3D capabilities that the spectacles have. We might have something that is maybe simpler in a way from a capability perspective. What kind of experiences or lenses will drive adoption when we have this new generation of devices?
I wish I know. I would work in this direction. I'm working with, I'm fully cheering for utilities, but I'm working this not because I know that it will work out. I just love doing it. That's what I'm thinking about when I'm working and finding any kind of use cases, because I constantly thinking about how it can be improved, or how AR, or how this extra digital layer will help us to see something, to understand something, to translate something, or navigate. I mean, there is a lot of use cases for utility, but of course it's kind of obvious. Maybe the gaming always taking the older role positions, like with mostly the headsets happening, because it's more powerful and it's more funnier. The gaming, exactly, especially when you have the connected lenses, it's very cool. During the game, it's becoming more fun. There's something we had to imagine, or something we now can see and play in different level of the game. To have this extra digital, cool, funny stuff around us. Of course, I would also cheer for education, because maybe in this time of technology, this is also the way to engage people or kids to learn more in this new approach, will be maybe more interesting for them. So utilities, education, and gaming also fun. That's fun if you're actually allowed to do this. So I'm cheering for people who are passionate in gaming. I have a lot of friends who are doing gaming in the Lens Studio, and they're awesome, and they're building awesome games. So I'm cheering for all these positions probably. Yeah.
I mean, of course, I think we are here, and everybody listening here is always cheering for AR overall, right? I mean, that is for sure. And there was another thing that came to mind when you were discussing and sharing these examples, is also the kind of like location-based experience. So, for example, let's imagine you are in a museum, right? And maybe there might be interesting ways in which not only an individual goes through an experience, but also maybe some of elements of that experience might be shared. Now, of course, the setup is different because it's in a more controlled environment. It is more something that museum or location owner, venue owners can deploy. And I feel it's kind of like different than just like an individual buying a pair of AR glasses. And this is independent now from spectacles or Snap, right? This is more like broader idea. Do you think that there is space and there is a market for those location-based experiences, a bit like right now for VR, where people just go some way to play arcade games, and maybe in museum there is a VR section where people can wear and try something. Do you feel that that might also be something, let's say, that will get significant and relevant for venues owner?
Yeah, of course, definitely, because you not always can have a guide near you to speak your language, and you not always can have this imagination to see how the statue looked before it lost some arm or some parts of the boat, or how this actual boat look like, not just some sail. And I think that spectacles, Snapchat collaborate with Allure. They have some experiences with Allure, and I think it's a great step, and it's very nice direction, because now the museums and can be more, not just more educational, but more um, uh, I don't know how to say it
Interactive.
correctly. Not interactive, but yeah, it can engage more people there because they are more interesting, and you really can be immersed into experience or to the history. It's not the VR experience that bring you directly like 100 years ago, but it will interact with the context, with some piece of architecture or some piece of the history, and it can create visual layer how it looked like. That's very important. So it now deepens the understanding and visiting such things like museum exhibitions. So
And
not just the video.
And probably it has also that additional value for venues because they can get them in. They give them another reason for people to come, right? And you can also imagine that maybe that digital content might have seasonality, right? So, we have a new experience here that we can deploy. So people that maybe haven't come to a museum once, they can come again and try that experience again because it's different now. Maybe it's in another area, or maybe there is a temporary exposition. So I think that brings indeed a lot of interesting opportunity for the users, but also for the venue owners that might want to experiment with this.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And we don't need to forget that this wireless device, so you can really go around the place. The device can guide you. It can understand your position, and you can interact with the stuff, and it can also read the interaction of the user and continue the experience, not just something pre-recorded stuff. It's really real-time based. So that's kind of important. You can go outside, you can be in open air. So it's not something that you need to carry on battery next to you, or you are wired with your headset. So I think there are a lot of field to experiment with and to find the use cases. That's really things that inspires, I think, in this direction.
So, to close up, maybe can you tell us what are you currently working on, and what can we expect maybe from you coming up that maybe people should stay tuned with?
Currently, I'm working in a few interesting stuff. We're trying to optimize the star map, of course, to make it more approachable and a little bit easier. And also, I'm really passionate in few years already to finalize the ski navigation. I built the prototype for the first spectacles, for the 2021 spectacles. And thanks to its location tracking, I want to build actual tracking of the ski hill that will navigate the user. Also, that's really work nicely that spectacles can record the experience. So you can not just record how you ski, but it also will guide you and show where is the lifts, where is the turns, where is danger zone, which kind of tracks you should take, like blue or red or black. So that's how I'm working, testing. It's not a ski hill, but we're still testing it outside. That's kind of complex thing. And recently I posted tarot cards. It's kind of was experiment to check how AI can read tarot cards. So user can choose the cards, which actually is a user engagement to choose actual like different cards, depends on the user what he will change. So there is some fate involved. It's not something that only AI show you 3 cards, you actually choose the cards and it will do the tarot reading. So it's just a small experiment that I just published.
Awesome. So, Inna, thank you very much. And again, I invite anybody to start experimenting because as you can see, there are so many opportunities and I will really be curious to see what you build. If you do, please send him a message. We'll be curious to have a chat. Otherwise, Inna, thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for listening in. If you like the show, remember to leave a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or a thumbs up on YouTube. It really helps me keep doing this and shine the spotlights on the greatest founders and makers, pushing the boundaries of XR and AI. Also, make sure to check out the show page xraispotlight.com, where you can find more conversation like this one. Till next time.